Hey everybody, so today we're going to be learning from Chapter 1, Lesson 5, Graphing Ratio Tables. So in Lesson 4, we learned how to make ratio tables and what they were. Today we're going to learn how to graph them. Okay, so again in Lesson 4, this is kind of what we did. We learned what a ratio table was and how to make them, how they work. So for example, if we knew that this person, Tim, made $5 an hour, okay, we would have hour up here for this row and money down here for this row. So for every hour, we would calculate how much he makes. Or however many hours he works, we would see how much money he makes. So for 1 hour, he would make $5. For 2 hours, he'd make $10. If I wanted to skip to 4, for 4 hours, he made $20. Same thing, if I wanted to know how much money Tim would make after working 10 hours, maybe continuing the table, I could easily do that by scaling forward. Okay, remember those terms, scaling back, scaling forward. So that's a little review of what we did in Lesson 4. Today it's going to be pretty similar, except for instead of having tables like this that are horizontal, we're going to make some tables that are like this, that are going to be up and down, vertical. Okay, so already I have something down on my notes. Just as a reminder, you should have this title written in your table of contents, and your notes should look exactly like this. So here we have two different people making two different amounts of money. We're going to make a ratio table for them, and then we're going to graph that ratio table. Okay, we're going to graph the data that we get from the ratio tables. So we did this in Chapter 5. We learned how to graph on a coordinate plane, so hopefully this should be review for most of us. Okay. So Chris earns $8 an hour, that's what we know, and Alana earns $15 an hour. So we're going to make a similar ratio table to what we saw here, but just a little different. Okay, so in this column, I'm going to have hours. And the hours, okay, because we want to graph, the hours are going to be our X when we're graphing. So I'm going to put an X over here. And then I'm going to also graph money, so how much money they earn. Okay, so money is going to be my Y. So I have my X and my Y, and then in this third column here, that's where I'm going to put the ordered pair. So remember what an ordered pair is. Okay, I'm running out of room a little bit. I'm just going to write on this top row here just an example of what we're going to put in these columns. So again, I'm going to put my X, my Y, and then my ordered pair is going to be X first, then Y. Okay, you do have these notes in your notebook, that little flip book that we made that it folds in and out on both sides, and it has ordered pair, origin, and y-axis, x-axis, and some other vocabulary terms. I'm going to do the same thing up here, so hour, money, and ordered pair. Okay, again, I'm going to have my X, my Y, and my ordered pair XY. Okay, so now I'm going to start filling in my data, my information. So I know that Chris earns $8 per hour. Okay, so if he worked 0 hours, for example, he would probably make no money. He wouldn't make anything. He didn't work, so he's not going to make any money. So my ordered pair is going to be X first, then Y, so 0, 0. Okay? Also, if you remember, this is our origin. 0, 0 is where the origin is, on the coordinate plane. Okay, now if you worked 1 hour, Chris would earn $8, because $8 for every 1 hour. And here we have 1 hour, and put an 8 here. So our ordered pair is it's going to look like 1, 8. If he works 2 hours, in 2 hours, $8 for every hour, so that means he'll make $16. If he works 3 hours, I'm going to add another 8 to this 16, because when he worked 2 hours, it was 16. So if he works 3 hours, it's going to be 24. And my ordered pair is going to be 324. I'll do one more. If he works 4 hours, okay, he's going to make $32. And I'm done. I'm going to stop my data there. That's as much points as I want to put on my coordinate plane, and I'm going to look at Alana's data now. So Alana makes, sorry, I think I meant to put earns here. Okay, so Alana earns $15 per hour, okay? So again, if she worked 0 hours, she would make $0. So for every 0 hours, she makes $0, which makes sense because if you don't work, you don't get paid. Okay, now if she works 1 hour, for every hour, she's going to make $15. I'm going to put 15 here, and then my ordered pair is going to be X, Y, so it's going to be 1, 15. Now if she works 2 hours, she works double the time, so she's going to make double the money. If she works 3 hours, she'll make $45. And if she works 4 hours, she will make $60. Okay, so now I have all my ordered pairs. And just as a side note to connect this to what we were doing yesterday with scaling back and scaling forward, if I didn't know how much money Alana would make after 4 hours, maybe I didn't know that she made $60 and I was having trouble figuring it out. What I could do, scale forward, okay? I know for every hour she makes $15. What we did yesterday, to get from 1 to 4, I know I have to multiply by 4. Because 1 times 4 would give me 4. And I would have to do the same thing on this side. I would do times 4 here. It's a little hard to see, but I put a times 4. So then I would know to do 15 times 4, and that would give me my answer there. Okay, so we're using the same concepts as yesterday. We just put it in a vertical table, and now we're going to graph it. Okay, so we have our coordinate plane. Okay, and on our coordinate plane, we also have an origin. And the origin is at 0, 0, so hopefully this is just review for many of us. And I am going to make our coordinate plane now. Okay, so if you remember from chapter 5, this line right here, this is our y-axis. Okay, so our y-axis is going to be the vertical, and our x-axis, which is this line right here, this is our x, that's always horizontal. Okay, make sure you label those two axes. So I'm also going to put this little symbol thing and this over here. We talked a little bit about this in chapter 5, So right here, this is what our ordered pair would look like. So on our ordered pair, this is the x and this is the y. And I just drew these arrows to show which way the x and the y go. So for the y-axis, this would be our y-axis right here, and it goes up and down. So I'm going to highlight that. That way I remind myself that when I'm graphing on this coordinate plane, this y-axis, it's always going to be this spot on the ordered pair. So these numbers right here, those are all our y. Okay, and then right here, this horizontal, okay, side to side, that's going to be our x. So these numbers right here, those are all our x. Okay, phone's ringing, I'll get it later. All right, so we are going to start graphing. I'm going to graph Chris with the green, and I will graph Alana with the blue. So, and first thing important, we gotta make our tallies, and we gotta say what we're counting by on the axis. Okay, so I'm just gonna count by ones on my x. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm gonna count by y. I'm gonna look at my y-axis and see what I should count by. Numbers are pretty big. I don't want to count by ones because that's too many tallies. Twos might be a little too small, and I notice I need to get to 60. So I'm going to count by tens. Okay, so I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 is going to be right there at the top. Alright, so now I'm going to start graphing. First, my ordered pair. Ordered pair is going to be right here at 0, 0. Then I'm going to graph my next point. So 1, 8. So the x is 1, and my y is 8. So it's not quite at 10, so I'm going to graph it a little below 10. So 1, 8. My next point is 2, 16. So the x is 2, okay, and the y is 16. So that's going to be about in the middle of 20 and 10. Then my next point is 3, 24. So here's the 3 on the x. I'm going to graph it up to 24, about the middle of 20 and 30. My next point, my last point, is 4 and 32. So here's the 4 on the x. And I'm going to graph it a little bit above the 30. Right there. So I have all my points. And if I look at the data, I notice it's making a straight line. So if I were to connect those points, I would have a straight line. Okay, so that was Chris's data. Let's graph Alana's data. There's the bell. Okay, so again, I'm going to graph my ordered pair, which is right here on the origin for 0, 0. Okay, next one would be 1, 15. So here's my 1 for the x and 15 for the y. My next point is 2, 30. So 2 is my x and 30 is my y. Next point, 3, 45. So here's my 3. I'm going to go up to 45, which is in the middle of 50 and 40. And then my last point, 4, 60. I'm going to go all the way up to 60. Okay. So that is how you graph ratio tables. You get the data first, you make your coordinate plane, and again, this is called a coordinate plane, what we did here, and then you plot your points. So hopefully this is all review. I could also label all of my points, right? I could. So this ordered pair right here, this would be 4 and 32. Okay, this is an ordered pair. This is my x, my y. So again, you could label every single point. I chose not to in this one, but I might have you guys do it. Okay. We'll go over this in class again, and if you have any questions, let me know.